what surprise we have? Got a little too excited.
As we made it home, as you can see.
That was too much tomatoes.
Shh, don't tell them what it is. Well, this is also going to be the great reveal, I suppose. And anyway, so I'm out. As soon as we get home, Shayla takes Hux inside because he's asleep. I've got the injured goat to take care of on the pasture. So I go out there. Not 5 minutes on the pasture, I hear a door shut. So I come back over here and I find these tools right here out on the trailer. So I know Huxton has been awake. And he comes outside and he's trying to open the boxes.
Well, first I picked up one of these weird things. I knew this one that had to work. I wasn't sure, so I grabbed the whole thing. And then I used this one first.
And the puppies are all in the yard now.
Yeah, I don't know why.
But I just thought that was pretty funny. And Shayla made sure to mention, Huxton's at the house, so look out for him. Like Huxton was going to be scared if he were to wake up and I wasn't right there. And he wasn't scared. He had his mind on opening these boxes. And he told me, well, he knew Mom was at practice with the kids, with the brothers, so she'd be back. Isn't that what you said? Yeah.
See, Dad? Some of these are short and long. They're hot. They're very hot. Well, I kind of opened the box over here. Got a little too excited. I think some of these are snapping.
You didn't even care that your mama left you here? Huh? What if neither me or Mom were here? Then what? Oh, play on your phone all day?
I don't think. That's not gonna come out. We need that winch, Dad.
Back it out. Use the gun.
Use it.
Yeah, well.
No, too straight. See? It's hit.
Well, it came. But you were saying it was hitting the trailer. You're scratching it, boy. We already scratched the trailer enough. We still have to sell this thing. Although, I would say the fact that it hauled 2,000 pounds from the port is a selling point. What do you think? Huh? For sure a selling point? Is that what you said? Let's see what's in there. Don't drop that screw.
Take off.
That's why. Okay, so first impression on the crating from the company is I'm not thoroughly impressed. and I'll show you why. I come over here, and this bolt and this pin, which I presume were supposed to be in this bucket, are laying there, and the only thing kept it from bouncing down the highway was this bubble wrap. And I'm not sure that everything is there yet. I'm looking for a manual on how to assemble some of this stuff. Yeah, at least they put that in with a keeper. And here's the other thing, is this one is busting through the bottom of the crate, so it broke a grease zerk, which is not a big deal, but as we've seen over here, there could be hardware just flopping around in there, and the fact that that could have fallen out worries me. And hopefully the manufacturer will make this right if anything's missing and send it by air, because
why did they leave these bolts?
Where was that?
It was right here sitting it. I looked over there, I found it.
Well,
why did they leave these bolts?
And there would be another problem. A bolt just sitting there.
How are you gonna fix that?
This is just to tie the seat together, son. We're gonna cut that off. But a bolt just sitting there, and if I were guessing, that bolt goes, oh sorry, if I were guessing, that bolt holds these teeth on, so could be a spare. Could have just been sitting there for whatever reason.
In a bag.
And there are some spare parts. Don't open that bag, son. That's very important. Okay. Oh, I see what the bolt went to. Never got put on. So here's the nut. The nylock never got.
Oh.
Well, I'm gonna say what they did was this holds on the seat probably, or something along those lines, and they never cinched it down. They ran it on there by hand. Huxton's my inspector. He's finding. Yeah, that's the same issue.
When I was checking on these.
Yeah. Same issue, right?
I didn't realize that it was off.
Same issue. So that's not a good sign, right? You don't want to order one of these, wait 2 months plus to get it, and then find out that you're missing bolts and whatnot, and hopefully nobody lost a windshield behind us. There's only so much you can do to secure something that's crated in. But
my mom wants to get off some of these boards, so we left all these boards.
Yeah, Mom is a package. Mom is a package opening enthusiast, isn't she?
Actually, sometimes you let us do it.
Sometimes?
Mom, Dad, you can never get this off. You keep the strap on.
We'll get the strap off.
I can't get it out.
Alright, I'll help you. Hey guys, as you've seen from the intro, what we bought was a couple of Chinese backhoes. Now, this all started with a project that we have here at the house that would either require us to rent something, which we've done in the past. We've rented equipment, or pay somebody several $1,000s to. There's like a million flies. But pay somebody several $1,000s to do it for us. And it just so happened to be, at the time that we were looking into this, there was actually a Coyote brand backhoe that was for sale on Purple Wave. And what it sell for, $3,800, somewhere around there. And we were kind of talking about bidding on it if it went under $4,000. But that backhoe attachment was very worn. There was obviously some missing pieces. The bucket was very, very worn. The seat was destroyed. So we could only, and I think it was owned by a city. So I can only assume they used it professionally, very hard. And so I called Coyote. Coyote was about $10,000 or $11,000 to get a Coyote brand one, brand new. So that's kind of out of the question. We didn't even pay that for a tractor. So I kind of looked around for 3-point attachments, and for what we bought to get one here in the States, granted, I'll almost bet money, I almost guarantee you they're probably better quality because they're a bigger company and they go through a lot of these quality control issues, which I'll tell you about, that we're going through. But those were also like $7,500 before shipping. So I decided, and drug Shayla into it, that I would buy not only one Chinese backhoe, but two, and that we would try to sell the other to recoup the cost of the first one. And that's something we'll take you along with as well. We haven't even listed it yet because of some issues that we have, and we'll explain that. But we haven't listed it yet. But anyway, so we bought two. And that was a journey. We bought off Alibaba for scale parts and stuff before, but we never bought anything sea freight.
Right, that just came on a truck straight to our house.
Yeah,
Delivered to
the scale
UPS.
parts were air freight. UPS delivered it.
No big deal.
No big deal. We didn't have to really think about much besides paying them and giving them our address for the scale stuff. This was a completely different story. So if you're looking to buy heavy equipment, this is off Alibaba. This is a good starter video. There may be people out there.
Anything freight.
Anything sea freight. Anything large. Anything that's not going to be air freight. Anything that you're going to bring in a port, this is going to be a good video for you if you've never done it before. There may be other videos out there. I tried to find them. Sometimes search algorithms just don't work real well. So, let's start with this. It took about 7 or 10 days of talking to the seller. And in order to talk to these sellers, generally, obviously, they're in a completely different time zone. It's about 23 or 25 hours different for this particular seller from us. So it's, 8 o'clock in the evening is basically 8 o'clock in the morning there. So you have to do all your communication after 8 o'clock. Lots of times they won't respond till 10, 11, 12 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, and you'll have to check your messages the next day. So that's obstacle number one, is communication. And I wouldn't even begin to purchase from a seller if they didn't display somewhat decent communication. So from beginning of talking to ordering, about a week. And then we placed the order. When we place the order, they give you the terms of shipping. And I've got those screenshotted so that I can bring it up and read it off to you if I can find it. All right, so whenever they propose the sell to you, you say, hey, I want two of these. You discuss exactly what you want on your equipment or whatever it is you're buying. They agree or don't agree, and then they give you a terms, and it just basically said, CIF, you need to afford any of other fees except for the shipment fee and insurance fee during shipment. When the goods arrive at the destination port, you need to do the import customs clearance and pay the import duty as well as any other destination port fees. That's really important because this comes up later, and I still feel like I'm in the right on it because I'll explain it later. So that's the terms they give you, and you have to basically either agree to that and make your first payment or don't agree to it. everything sounded good to me. I knew that there would be port fees such as tariffs and handling your equipment in the port and all that. I absolutely understood that. But we were surprised with some freight, port forwarding freight from the port to a warehouse. And we'll explain that here in a little bit. So after I make the first payment on this equipment, and I guess we'll go ahead and start talking about prices in case you're interested in the cost effectiveness of importing your own backhoe or something similar. Like I said, $7,500 for a Woodmax. They give me a price of, for the equipment, they give me a price of $2,150, and that included a hydraulic thumb, which was like $120 add-on. So I'm thinking this is a really good deal right off the bat. I'm thinking, man, this is less than a third of what it costs to buy from Woodmax. We can make this work. So I go ahead and I hit pay, and you basically pay half up front. So we go ahead, we pay that, and over the next 2 weeks while they're fulfilling our order, they send videos of them assembling it, videos of them operating the equipment, and then they say, hey, your stuff's ready to ship. You need to pay the other half of your shipment. So then you go ahead and you pay the other half of your shipment. And I think it was after we paid, they said we need to, was that when we did the ISF?
Well, the equipment was getting ready to ship, and then they last minute told us that we needed to fill out an ISF form. We had no idea what the ISF was.
Yeah. So before I bought anything, they made no mention of ISF. And this has nothing to do with your port, well, it sort of has something to do with your port destination, but these are not port destination fees particularly.
So if you're taking notes on this, write down ISF and make sure to research that beforehand.
Research what an ISF fee is.
I think that the fees vary. I had no idea. We were in a tight bind. I had to get this done within, like, I think 3 days. So
Yeah, they will not ship it. Your products will not go on the boat if this is not done within a few days of departure.
I think that it will, actually.
It can end up on the boat, but then you could end up with like massive fees.
$10,000 fees.
Penalties and stuff.
So make sure that you have your ISF form finished, and I think you have a certain
probably ask, not only do you want to get an agent, but I would also ask the seller about these things because they know about them. They just don't want to tell you about them because it makes it for the average buyer. If you're not buying for a big company and they want to get that sale, they want you to bite. They're not going to tell you about all these things.
Or they assume you already know.
No. They know the difference between big buyers and people who are kind of...
Probably, but they don't know that you didn't do your research.
So ISF fee...
Make sure you look that up. And
your ISF forms have got to be filled, and you're going to hire an agent or a broker or whatever.
Well, the ISF fees can vary little. Ours was $125. And then when you fill that out, you have to have either your IE or EIN number, or you have to use a social security number. You have to file this as if you're a business. And then that company will accept your ISF form, and then they will assign you an agent, a broker, essentially. So from that point, it was...
So at that point...
Got our shipment about a week later than we expected.
Yeah, it delayed our shipping a little bit. I think he just delayed shipping so we didn't get stuck with the fees. So that was probably a good thing on their part because he realized that we didn't know, that we hadn't done it. And I think what it was is the shipping just delayed at that point by about a week. But then once that's all done, we're kind of coasting for several weeks. And then maybe, I don't know, maybe 3 weeks before it got to port, they hit us with a freight bill. And this is where I was talking about in my terms. It said that freight was included, but port fees were not. This is where I differ with the seller. I differ with Alibaba, and I feel like they just do not understand what I'm saying. And the reason I say that's because I've got their original quote for shipping where it tells me my shipping is $300. And on that quote, it shows the company name that's doing the freight, that's handling the freight. It's CTL Lax Incorporated. And so that's who I paid the $300 shipping sea freight from. I don't even know if we told them what we paid for sea freight.
300.
I know, but we didn't go in the
yeah.
beginning. We didn't cover that.
Yeah.
So the cost of those backhoe attachments were $21.50, and it was $300 sea freight was what I was quoted under the CIF terms, right? Okay, now let's restart. So this is where it gets kind of confusing, but they quoted me the $300, and on that quote was CTL Lax. Well, about, like we were saying, 3 weeks before it hits port, we get another bill for how much?
It was $1,027.14.
We get another bill for freight, which I guess is the port forwarding, and I say, whoa, hey, no, I paid $300 shipping, and they said, oh, I'm sorry, the seller did not tell you. These were pre-negotiated terms. That's what I was told. They were pre-negotiated, and then I did the research, and I found they were the same freight company that I was quoted $300 for. So at that point, I enter into a dispute and a refund application with Alibaba, and the seller would just keep saying the same things. It was CIF terms. I was responsible for port fees. Well, the port fees are different from freight, because then later, maybe a week before, 2 weeks after this, after we pay the shipping fees, because we want to get our backhoes, we've already spent the money, we need to get our backhoes. So we pay the shipping while we're disputing it, and then I get what was the bill for the port fees?
Well, let's back up a little bit. We did argue on this one. We went back and forth. It was a big deal between the freight company, the broker, the seller, and us. We were going back and forth through this. And they did end up knocking off, they brought the bill down to $890.
Yeah, so they did reduce the bill. I don't know how they did it.
If you're wondering what all these fees are, there's a breakdown. They have a clean truck fee for $15, a pier pass, chassis rental fee, chassis split fee, a D&O fee, LCL congestion fee, low sulfur surcharge, port security surcharge, stripping fee, and then the warehouse in and out fee, which is your most expensive, and that was $514. And all the rest was the makeup of the $890. So we had no idea who these people were emailing us. There was no explanation.
It's a very convoluted, confusing process. But we dispute that, which I'll get to how Alibaba resolved that here in just a minute. But then, not only do we have to pay this $1,000 that we weren't accounting for freight, we also receive another bill for how much? 13. Which
was $1,387.
13. So basically $1,400. And this bill we were expecting. We didn't know how much it would be. I'm not sure how you would even know.
Well,
ahead of time. I don't know how you would know what it is ahead of time, but I guess I wouldn't have been surprised if it were this much, but it was probably a little more than I thought it would be. I was thinking maybe, naively, I guess, I was thinking maybe $500 to $1,000. But it also didn't surprise me.
After all the back and forth and the confusing, the emails were very short. They weren't giving us an explanation. So after all that and back and forth and a lot of stress, he was busy working and told me to call them. So I ended up calling the CTL Lax company, which is the freight forwarding company. And I talked to a guy there, and he was very helpful. He explained the whole process and what happens and how we should have asked the seller more information on.
The seller knew what information to withhold to get us to buy it. So it doesn't matter. The seller didn't.
Right.
The seller had the information. The seller booked the ultimately what happened is the seller booked the port forwarding fees and just did not disclose them, which is why I disputed it with Alibaba. Now, Alibaba ends up resolving this by refunding us $250. So, you know, we basically paid, I guess, a fair fee for the warehousing. We basically paid that $500 for warehousing. And the Alibaba refund, I guess, kind of negated all the bogus fees, the cleaning truck and all that stuff. So Alibaba was willing to work with us. My biggest issue was that if the seller books freight and just tries to hide behind the fact that it happens after it gets to the port and saying he's not responsible for port fees, those are not port fees, those are freight. They're different. And anyways, the point is we have these expenses and this adds to the total cost. So if you're thinking about buying this Alibaba or AliExpress large item sea freight, it's not going to be near as cheap as that. When you're scrolling through Alibaba, wow, I could buy a backhoe for $2,000. Just know there's going to be significant fees that keep adding to that.
But back to the port fees, customs duty, you'll hear the words customs duty and fees, port fees, that's what all that is. Back to that, after I had originally filed that ISF form and our broker reached out to us, all she told me, and I have a screenshot and I can provide it if you would like, but it said that we would need the clearance fee on the US side. So the first fee was for the Chinese side and this side was the US side, and was only going to be $125. So we were expecting that, and like he said, the other port fees. So it was $125 there. We had a customs entry bond of $85, wire fee and CBP fee, documentation fees, miscellaneous that added up. The actual port fees were $1,100.
So they get you so many ways. And that's not it. That's not it.
So then when I had spoken to the man on the phone, he was explaining how I was trying to figure out if there was a way to get around the freight company and avoid those charges from the beginning. At this point, it was obviously too late, but he explained that they base your shipping price, your freight price, on the cubic feet of how much room you're taking up in their storage container. And I said, well, can we not just pick it up straight from the port? Which you might laugh, that might be a dumb question. Never done anything like this before, but basically you have to own the what are they called?
You have to fill an entire container,
right,
to pick it up at the port. So yes, you could absolutely. So say you're wanting to stock say you had an equipment
rental
dealership or something like that, and you had some street front and you wanted to buy a bunch of excavators or a bunch of attachments and you wanted to sell them, you could absolutely fill a 40-foot shipping container, and it would probably save you quite a bit on shipping versus buying, 2 pieces of equipment at a time.
Right. And then the other thing was, he said that we could have asked the seller about port fees. The seller should know all those fees based on, they classify whatever item you get, they have classifications for them. I forgot the actual term for that, but they will classify them, and that's how they base their port fees. So make sure, these are things that you need to be asking. Write this down. Pause this video right now, go get a pen and paper and write these down. Make sure you're asking about ocean fees. That is the fee that's getting from the country of origin on the ocean in the boat going across the sea to your country. The freight fees is the truck that goes to pick up the freight. They have to unload it, they've got to organize it, then they've got to take it to the warehouse and organize it there by the seller. And so you need to ask about your freight fees. Then you need to ask about port fees. And also remember your ISF and your clearance fees, which the clearance fees was included in port fees. But I would try to get a broker or an agent in advance or research that. That's a possibility.
So it's going to take you a couple months to get your stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're in a hurry, this isn't good. This isn't a solution for you anyways. So just know that if it's going to take you a couple months, spend another few days in negotiation. See what you can do to try to hammer out what your port fees are going to be, what your port forward fees are going to be, what all this is going to be. Try to negotiate with them to get as close to as final of a price as possible. Just spend the extra few days so that you're not surprised.
From our experience, they're willing to work with you. They'll do what it takes to make the sale. I mean, they need to come
They're very
down.
good. They're very good at dealing with you before you buy it.
Right.
Once you buy it, then they fall off and they don't want to communicate as well because they've already got your money.
Yeah.
I've had that experience with a couple different sellers from over there.
And then, also, so being that we were hit with this extra $2,400, we had gotten a couple of quotes through Shipley on having the backhoes brought from the port to our house.
So we did the Shipley quote before I ever decided to buy. So I had a general idea of what somebody would charge from Houston to deliver these. And it started out, the first day or two that the bid was out there, started out like $1,500-$1,600.
Yes.
And I was like, wow, that's way too expensive.
Never accept your first offer. It always gets much cheaper.
So started out $1,500 or $1,600. Well, within probably 24 to 36 hours, we had quotes as low as $500 to $600. So we could have used a hotshot Shipley kind of app service, and we could have probably got it delivered to our house for about $600.
Mm-hmm.
But we decided to make a vacation out of it, basically. And out of that vacation, I'm going to say driving down to the port ourselves from where we are cost us, we'll say, one hotel room and the gas and the food. If we were just to go down there and come back, would have cost us probably about $350 to $400.
Mm-hmm.
So we could have saved a couple $100. In the grand scheme of things, it would have been cheaper to go ahead and spend $600 because you got wear and tear and your time involved also. But it is an option because they do store it in a warehouse where you don't have to have any kind of clearances or anything to get into a port. It's in a private warehouse. Just, anybody can drive up to.
Mm-hmm. And then the other thing that we were surprised with, which is smaller, but also something to think about if you do decide to go pick up your own shipment, is that when we got to the warehouse, it was pretty simple. I went in, I just gave them our number. There's I don't remember what it's called, something H something number. Make sure you call your freight company and find out when they're open, the hours, and how their lineup works. Some are first come, first serve. Some are not.
So, and when we were asking about that, they would say, the freight company would say, well, it varies depending on the warehouse. Some give you 3 days to pick it up. Some give you up to 7 days. So that's something you have to consider. If you're going to pay to ship this, you need to be ready. The very minute that you get notification it's ready for pickup, you need to start getting your bids for shipping so that you have a day or two to get the bid numbers down, because you're only going to have so many days to pick it up before you start acquiring more fees.
Mm-hmm.
But I think what she was going to say was, if you pick it up yourself, you do not have a truck big enough to back up to the dock, so they charge you an additional fee to bring the freight down the ramp, which in our case, it was just $25. And they did have, because we have a small utility trailer, they did have to do a bunch of workaround to get it on there the way I wanted it on the trailer, we had to put it on the trailer like 5 different times because they wouldn't listen to me on how I wanted it on there. There was one guy that understood, but he wasn't helping us.
That was another issue we had too. Was you had gotten a measurement and he measured the trailer and they were actually bigger than what the measurement that he converted.
So their measurements were just a little bit smaller than what they had, or larger than what they had given me. Wasn't much, but it was enough that on my trailer it wouldn't work the way I originally intended.
So that was.
But all in all,
that was fun.
Let's get to the grand total. What this cost, and was it worth it? So
let's see. I forgot to add in a couple things. So this is per unit.
So the cost per backhoe was about $3,500.
That was also not including our gas and travel down there, but we'll get that in later.
I mean, so $3,750.
Yeah.
So $3,750 for per backhoe, and like I said, the Wood Max would probably be the most comparable thing in the United States that you can readily order, and it's $7,400 before shipping. So we still come in at 50% the cost, even after all this hassle and all these fees. We still come in at 50% the cost of buying a Wood Max. So in my opinion, this was a good purchase. I'm gonna try to make about $1,500 off selling the other one. That's my goal. I'm gonna list it a little higher than that, but I need to make about $1,500 off of that one to justify buying the second one. And then that will bring my cost down to nearly $2,000. And I've already done one job with this thing that would probably pay for half of it if we're able to sell this one. So it's not going to take long to get my return on investment on this. If we do, we've got a septic leach line. If we do that job ourselves, that's going to totally pay this machine off. The fact that we don't have to go to the rental store and chase one down, that we're not, rushing. Typically we rent on the weekend and we're rushing Saturday and Sunday to get it done, and you can only use so many hours on the machine or you incur more fees, and then you're rushing to get it back Monday morning so you don't get more fees. The stress that this is going to take away of being able to grab a machine and do a major task without having to go chase one down or come up with the money at that time to do it is going to be well worth it. So that
we have so many projects to do with it too. Water lines, we want to run
water
electricity
lines
back out to the corral.
And this might seem kind of silly, but I've got 2 oak trees right here I want to plant. Yes, I could dig that with a shovel, but I would also be out there for an hour digging, whereas I can literally dig these trees. I can dig the ground and have these trees planted and the panels around them to protect them from the goats and everything in an hour. So it's going to streamline a lot of our tasks. I think it's totally going to be worth it. Even if I end up having to do repairs on it, 100 hours in or whatever the case is, I still think it's going to be worth it.
Plus, we get to give you guys better content, and our boys get to learn how to use this equipment at a young age, so they're going to have some experience under their belt. Although YouTube stinks, and we probably won't be able to show you a lot of them on there, but that is also part of the intention.
But anyways, I know we covered a lot of information. We sounded confused because there's still things that we don't 100% understand. But, hey, it worked out. They arrived. So far, the one we hooked up works. And, this is one thing I would say about the seller, though. He shorted me a very important part. These things use a rigid 3-point mount. It's not a standard top link. I I have been using it with a standard top link, but it's not the ideal or safe way to do it. If you go to buy one of these, make sure that the seller is going to sell you that rigid top link with it. Otherwise, they're a couple $100 from WoodMax, and I don't know anybody else that provides them. Myself, I'm going to be manufacturing my own. So unless you want to be making one or chasing one down or using this thing not 100% correct, then make sure that they're going to provide you with a rigid top link. And if the seller doesn't understand what it is, it was in the manual to what the seller provided me, and he still doesn't understand. And that's that communication issue, or the fact that I've already bought it and he knows that there's nothing I can really do about it at this point. I'm not sure, but
so maybe another thing to think about, maybe like a better translator. They're good at speaking
no,
English,
he understands.
I know, but maybe find someone over there, or I don't know, maybe consider that too. But for the most part, overall, everything went well. The manual was another issue, which he has in the video here. You've already seen.
So I've got a long format video. It's going to be a long video of working with the equipment. It's going to cover that top link issue, and I'm going to show you how I worked around it and how I'm using it right now. And then once I get that rigid top link, I'm going to show you the install on that as well. And I did not do a video on how to hook this up because it was kind of chaotic, because we knew we were missing something and we didn't understand what it was.
There's
so
no manual.
So whenever we hook up the one that we're going to sell so we can function test it before we sell it, we'll do the video on how to hook it up to your tractor.
How to put it all together and everything.
But stay tuned for more content on this machine if you want to see it used a little bit and kind of ease some of your anxieties about buying something from China.
And if you guys have any questions at all, like we said, this is our first time. We're not professionals. We still don't 100% know everything. But feel free to reach out and we'll try to ask questions. I know that video was a little bit back and forth and somewhat confusing. But please comment below, find our email below in the description, or get over on Facebook and message me on there. And we'll try to answer whatever questions that you can think of and help you out.
And subscribe.
Yeah. Like this video. Even if you thought it was boring, go ahead and like it anyway, because it helps boost us in the algorithm. We'll catch you guys on the next one.